Oh, yesterday I was in that house and I was filming the video and I got out of that house with 7 jiggers. Bad news. I didn't sleep last night. And while I was itching, I thought about our African culture that has some things that are very, very incarcerating. For instance, this is a big house that belonged to the father uh, of these guys, the father of Moses, called Musa, and the father of the other guy called Andrew. And there is this other one. There is another guy there who is also like crazy now, having worked in the UK. He has very good English. I don't know what happened that these three just, lost it. But, that's not the point. The point is about this house. This is a house. This man was a doctor. Their father, their late dad, was the head of a medical fraternity. He represented, I think, doctors in Kenya, and then he died. And this is the house for the elderly wife. He just built this when he was like maybe retiring. And this house is there. It is not a bad house, as we can see. It is okay with steel doors, steel windows, glass windows that are now falling off. Um, Jiggers wouldn't survive here with the cemented floors. And that was one of the sofa sets that were in this house and all that. So this is a house where jiggers don't survive. And it's now empty and deserted. Why? Because culturally, you don't stay in your parents' house. When they die, that is no longer a house, it's given a new name. And in Luhya dialect, we call that name Likubili. Likubili is an old house where the owners passed on. And so we understand that they cannot come to sleep on that bed that belonged to their dad and mom. It would be wrong for them to do that. But we have other rooms where they could, stay. Here is one of the rooms. It's a spacious room, big enough to stay in. There's a little kitchen. And then here is another room that is spacious. They could come and, and spend there. You can even see the chickens that run around have just put an egg there. They haven't realized that. Okay, and so this place is can be useful. The roofs are not leaking; they're okay, but because of the tradition, the culture. In fact, this door has it's an inner door and an outer door that is metallic to enhance security. But because of the cultural aspect, he is staying there. He is staying there. This guy called Musa, who has now even refused to be jigadak. He was washed and prepared, but then he refused to be jigadak. And he stays here. And he spends on that chair that is his bed. And the place is so crammed, it has no space. And he cooks from that place. Having left a good kitchen, the other in the main house, his parents' house, just because culturally you're not supposed to stay in your parents' house after they die. You have to move, and of course, before they even die, you don't stay with them. And after they die, then the house is condemned. No matter how permanent and beautiful it is. The children cannot stay there. This is according to the Bukusu. Bukusu is a sub-tribe among the Luhya, wider Luhya tribe. And these people are Bukusus, and we have the Turas, and we have the Tesos. In Western Kenya, they have the same kind of belief, the same culture. And so he is not using this kitchen now, and he is using the other place. He is in the other place instead of this spacious, nicer place. It's just cleaning, and it will be okay for use. But because of culture, he doesn't use that. Because of traditional beliefs that earmark the culture of these guys, he cannot come and stay here, so that he stays in a house that is not cemented and is beaten by jiggers. But if he came here, even if it is that with all that brokenness, all that crevices and cracks and stuff, still this is enough. The jiggers cannot survive here. But these guys cannot stay here because of tradition. And Rise Up Society has been in the forefront to fight these archaic, primitive cultures. The reason why you cannot see old houses for people who passed on is because they are actually put down. A house like this, all that material and the resources that were put here has been condemned just because the owner died. When you go to these developed countries, you will have a house that has been there since 16th century, 15th century. They have those houses. That doesn't happen here in Africa, because when you die, your house goes with you. You cannot have your children inhabiting that same house. And it is stupid. It is backward. It has to be challenged. And I have personally been in the forefront challenging this kind of a thing. We cannot be wasting resources and beginning projects that that were already done by our fathers. We repeat that just because they died. Then why do we build permanent houses? Then why did this man, who was a medical doctor, a general practitioner, why did he then build this house? And it's a permanent house. He built it knowing he was going to die one day. So why did he make it permanent? He should then have just built something with mud like that one. That one is cheap. It's easier to build. And even if it's condemned, it's not a permanent structure. But this permanent structure is now useless because the owner died. And we need to change this kind of thing in Africa. And I think as long as I'm alive and kicking, I will fight against this kind of an arrangement where good things are just deserted, they are left to rot after the owner dies. And if we throw away the house, then we should also not mind about the money they leave behind and other valuables, because these people leave behind things and people scramble for those things, but they leave the house to rot and they can never inhabit that house until the birds will come and inhabit those places. And nobody's there to even repair the windows. This has to be challenged. And I think I will be challenging this before the councils of elders. And each time I'm given an opportunity, I will talk about that, so that when somebody dies, their children come back, their grandchildren come back, and they stay in these places. You see, because of superstition, somebody says, when you go there, you'll hear the footsteps moving in the night. And it's all lies. It's bull. That's bull. When somebody dies, they're gone. And their ghosts cannot come to inhabit these houses again, because their home is no longer a house but a grave. They rest. In fact, the right word is to rest. They rest in peace. And if they were bad people, then they rest in torments, in the graves, and not in the houses they built, because the dead don't stay in the house. They inhabit, they dwell, they remain in the graves, and whatever they have is not a body, it's not a casket. They call them bones, but they're actually the remains. The remains are in the grave, and the house that was left behind is left behind for those who are still living and waiting to also die. So I challenge this culture. I know we will have Africans, Kenyans watching this, and we are living under this condemnation, this primitive culture. It's my prayer that we will together join hands and challenge this primitive belief that when somebody dies and you stay in their house, you'll also die, or they will come in the night and slap you, or some bad thing will happen to you. No bad thing will happen to you. In fact, if I found again, if my parents were there and they had a house like this one, I would move in and stay there, and nothing would happen to me. So now, because of that kind of a thing, we cannot convince these guys to move and come to this cemented house. They will be there, and if we want to help them, we will be forced to cement that house so that it's more habitable, because trying to move them here will be an exercise in futility. They will not accept, and even if they did, the society will gang up and fight it. They'll be moved out of here by the society with those beliefs. The old men will come and say, no, you cannot stay there. So now they're suffering there. Now we have to again spend money on the other house and buy stuff there and do things when this is just there rotting. So please help me change a few things. Help me change the belief system here, because we need that. We need to change. Communities that change are the ones that adopt and thrive. But communities that remain with belief systems that are old school, old fashioned, that hold no water, that have no proof scientifically, because you cannot scientifically prove that people stayed in houses for their parents and stuff happened to them. You can't prove that. And when you go to the developed world, they stay in those places and nothing happens to them. Alternatively, you could sell these off, but that tradition again pursues the person who would want to buy that. The people cannot buy it because they'll feel, oh no, the owner died, and if I buy that, I will also die. The owner will come and fight me. Dead people don't fight the living. Dead people don't help the living. When they die, the Bible says their works resurrect and they follow them. When you die, what you did comes alive and it follows you. It follows you, good and bad. And when we will stand before God, all those things will stand beside us. In fact, we will be carrying them, and they will determine the judgment we get. So this is all not right, and I say we must gang up, we must come together and stop this from happening, so that this whole house that is worth maybe 1,000,000 shillings should not just go down because that man and his wife died, so that we can salvage this and use this to help people without housing in Africa, the children, the grandchildren, the neighbors, so that people can buy these properties and continue enjoying this, renovate and make new, and continue enjoying these blessings. So let me end there for now.